Okay, about ready to get started? I see some faces I don't know. So.
We've been here too long.
I know. It's because I don't get out of my cave, you know? So, welcome. I'm Jamie Childress, Registrar, Fee of Enrollment, glorified title. Got Adam Wade, Director of Admissions, Lisa Key Brown, new title.
I'm still
developmental. So we wanted to tell you about what our state is doing in their infinite wisdom mid-academic year. We're a pilot for the new placement for developmental. And it's RISE Training Reinforced Instruction for Student Excellence. So multiple measures will still be used, but the term multiple measures is kind of going away. It's now RISE. I'll let Lisa take it away.
Jackie, did you want everybody to introduce?
Do you guys want to introduce? Does everybody know everybody? Is it just me that's in the hole? Let's start over there with Amanda.
Amanda Carter, Director of Distance Education. Sarah Deal, First Enrolled Project Director, supervises success coaches.
Currently, is that what you're saying?
Currently.
Okay.
Anthea Size, Success Coach.
Bill Freeman, Media Technologies.
Hi, Jennifer Trice, Student Success Advocate with TRIO, Student Support Services.
Okay.
Student Outreach.
Bren,
I'm sorry.
Marquita McCrimmon, Department Chair for Justice Studies.
Ashley Tidmore, Executive Director of College Access Programs, which is all of our TRIO programs.
Sarah Blair, Veterans Upward Bound Programs.
Matt Booth, Director of Veterans Upward Bound.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Mike Murray, IT Instructor. James Thomas, Academic Coach with TRIO Student Services.
Aaron May, Admissions Counselor.
Cricket Jones, UT Counselor.
Glenn Sherry, Machine Instructor.
Edwin Thomas, Machine Instructor.
Dave Peterson, Academic Coach with TRIO SSS.
Pat McKellar, Physical Education Instructor.
Okay. How about those at the other campuses?
Kimberly walked in too, but yeah.
Kimberly, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Kimberly Brzezowski, the Administrative Specialist for Student Support Services.
How about at the other campuses? Who do we have?
Tell them one at a time. Pardon.
Harnett?
Okay.
Pittsburgh?
Pittsboro. My name is Rhonda Jones. I'm the Admissions Counselor.
Christy Bennett, Director of Continuing Education Programs, Pittsburgh.
And Andrew McMahon, the Department Chair for Sustainability.
There should be some handouts there somewhere.
They have it.
They have them on their table, or Rhonda does.
Rhonda has one, but I sent it to her. Check with Linda in the front office. She probably has them.
I just was over there.
You'll need those.
I didn't know they were over there though. Yeah.
I'll be right back.
Well, should we wait till they? I hate for him to.
Let me just say sure. Well, he just ran to it.
Yeah, but I think, is that in the same building?
I don't know.
Stacia, is that in the same building?
What's that?
What building is the smart classroom?
The smart room in Pittsburgh.
It's in the Connex building.
Yes.
It's in the Connex, so you have to walk to the next building and walk back.
Okay, well, Andrew's got long legs, but he's smart, he'll figure it out.
Okay. Okay.
We'll catch him up.
We'll catch
Yeah, we'll
him
catch him
up.
up.
All right. So today we're going to talk about the changes in developmental, the covert remediation model that we're doing now, which is called RISE. Talk about high school GPAs. We got a fall advising guide at the top of the handout that I've given you. We're going to talk about the transition center, the crosswalk, RISE assessment tests, parent class and co-rec class, the placement test for spring of 2019, and the new colleague screen. A lot of this stuff you probably will not have to know until spring of 2019, but we felt like the more you hear it, the better it's going to be, because we'll have more training in the fall. But I think a lot of the things that you need to know now, you will understand better if you know what's happening in the spring. Okay? So at the end, what we're going to do is we're going to go through all this, and then we're going to play a game, and we're going to try to see if you can figure out scenarios. Okay? All right. All right, so fall of 2018 will be the last of the DMAs and DREs. They will no longer exist here at the college. and the NC-DAT will no longer exist. I know a lot of us depend on that placement test. You know, well, if they can't get in their classes, just go send them to the placement test. That's not going to be the same mantra after this. So for spring, students will be advised using multiple measures. So one of the reasons I felt it was important is because based on their high school GPA coming in, you may want to delay their DMAs or DREs until the fall. Okay, and so I hated you to put students in classes that they may need to wait until the spring. You know, so we're going to talk about that because we'll be using unweighted high school GPAs, SATs, ACTs, GED scores is something that's new to this new way of placing students. If a student has a high school GPA within the last 10 years, so you know now we do 5 years, right? Well, starting in the spring, it's going to go to 10 years, okay, in the spring. So high school GPA will be good for 10 years, and they'll either be put in a curriculum course with a co-rec, or a curriculum course without a co-rec, or they'll be put in the transition center, okay? If a student's high school GPA is more than 10 years, then there is going to be a placement test. It's going to be a new NROC placement test that's being developed as we speak, and it will only be used for very few people. So if you're been out of school for 12 or 15 years, then you'll get to take the NROC placements. Okay. All right, Jamie. So this is the model they came up with at the system office, and I'm going to just preface this by saying that this plane is being built as we are flying on it. And things may change, but I think this is kind of cut in stone, but I'm sure all of you that work with the system office knows things change. And, you know, I think this is kind of cut in stone, but they may come up with something that changes. But so basically right now we have 2.6 GPA. You go right into your got to have your fourth math. You can go directly into your math and English curriculum level 5. Well, that's going to change when the RISE starts in the spring, and as Jamie said, we are going to be a pilot college. There are 18 pilot colleges across the state trying this out for the fall or for the spring. So, so what this means is instead of being 2.6, it's going to be 2.8 and better. So they've upped the ante a little bit on that. So it's not going to matter if you have that fourth math. If you just have a 2.8, you will go directly into your gateway math and English without a co-rec. Okay? So it did go up a little bit. So a high school GPA between 2.2 and 2.799 will go with it in a gateway math and English with a co-rec. Okay? So there's a little difference there where before they had to take the placement test and then they had to take their DMAs or DREs depending on what they placed into, but now depending on their high school GPA, they will go directly into their English and math with a co-rec. And last but not least is the high school GPA 2.2 and below. So what this means is if they have a high school GPA of 2.2 and below,
Well, less than 2.2.
less, yes, right, less than 2.2, thank you. They are going to look at their ACT scores. So right now our ACT score for math was, I think it's 18. No, 22. I think it is. 20. The math was 22. But what they're going to do is they're going to say, well, if you have a GPA of 2.2 and less, then we're going to look and let the ones that have 20 and 21 go into their English and math with a co-rec. Okay? So it's not just going to be cut and dry anymore. We're going to look at like 2 points below. Because they've done some research says that 2 points below, they still can do the work. And the same thing for the English and the reading. One of the things that, if you notice this is an OR. Right now, and if you're looking at ACT scores, they have to have an ACT score and this English score, right? So, did he finally get the?
Yeah, he's good.
I thought I heard him ripping them open.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so, that is the difference here. There's gonna be an or now instead of an and. And then if they do not meet any of this, they're gonna go to a transition center. This one is for continuing ed, but we have decided at the college to run the transition center through curriculum. So those students will be in a class 6 contact hours a week for 3 credit hours. So that's it's gonna be called the transition center, and I'll talk a little bit more about it in just a second. But it'll be kind of like a self-paced based. We're using NROC, which is who's developing our placement test. That's the software that will be used in this transition course. And they'll be basically taking a diagnostic test, and it places them wherever they need to be. Okay? All right. So I'm gonna turn it over to Jamie.
So, believe it or not, you already have a way to check the high school GPA. You just probably don't, okay? We put it right now as an other type of test so that it then populates in a VISO and gives that non-course credit if needed. Well, we're not doing that with this. They're going to develop this magnificent screen where you're going to be able to see everything eventually, okay? They say it'll be ready in October. We'll get to that later. But right now, you can check the student's unweighted GPA. As long as we have received an official high school transcript, ever since we started multiple measures, we've been putting that unweighted high school GPA on the student's record. So what you're actually going to do is go in Colleague to your student profile screen. That's SPRO, okay? At the bottom of that screen, you're going to drill into demographics, then you're going to go into the institution attend, then you're going to drill into the high school, and don't worry, I'm getting ready to show you pictures, okay? So, if you'll click.
And we are going to put this presentation up on professional development so you don't have to take all these notes. Keep up with all that, okay?
On Blackboard.
On Blackboard. Okay. Thank you. Okay, thank you.
So, when you go to SPRO, if you click in down here on demographics to drill in there at the bottom, it'll pop up a menu saying what demographic do you want to go to. Okay, you want to go to ISU, you can either double click that or you can actually type in ISU and say okay. If you just double click it, it'll take you there. Now this student has high school, another college, and then she actually graduated with us. So you want to drill into her high school information. And here on her high school attended record, you will see her GPA. It's right here, middle of the page. That is the unweighted GPA, okay? The new screen may have more than one GPA, but we'll get there, okay? Now, for RISE, we are going to look at the year they attended and go back 10 years, because we figured everybody could do that math, okay? We are not going to go by the graduation date, which is what we've been doing for multiple measures. So this young lady graduated May 31st of 2016. So if we were doing multiple measures, she would actually have to start before, she would have to start at the very latest summer term of 2016 that starts on May 16th, because they would have to start before that. Now we're not going to make you keep up with the actual day or the month, okay? You're just going to go back 10 years. So since she graduated in 2016, her GPA will be good until 2026, right? Now her GPA, unweighted, was 3.812. She's great to go. You will find some students though that we don't have their GPA in there because we've yet to receive an official high school transcript. This is going to be a change in workflow. In my office, special credit does not have to turn in a high school transcript. Therefore, we cannot put it in a GPA if we don't have it. So if we do have it, then we're going to have to get in the habit of putting that in if that student's here to take a gateway course. Okay? Okay?
So really quickly, one of the things that Lisa has been working on, I think this has sort of evolved and will be part of the conversation today when you guys do some scenarios, is as we think about advising for students that are starting fall, we might have to be a little strategic and creative. because it won't always be cut and dry as our crosswalk is now. So we came up with this little nifty guide, and everyone has one, so if you could follow along here. So just like our GPA breakdown that we talked about earlier with when Lisa was talking, so a GPA below a 2.199, and again, this is just supposed to be a guide for you. Every single student will fall into this category. One of the things we've realized, and that you will soon realize, is that every single student is going to have to be viewed individually, because their scenario is going to be different. They might qualify for multiple measures. They might have ACT scores. So depending on the situation, this could vary widely. So for a student who has a GPA below 2.199, right, if they need any number of DMAs, developmental math courses, we're going to advise them to take that, to begin that in the fall semester. Now, one of the things you'll see though is that as we learn more about RISE, we want to try to get a student to a certain level, or to test out, or to complete a certain level. That would then place them into a certain level of math. So through DMA 30, or through DMA 50, or through DMA 80, so that then they go into a math with or without a co-rec, and not just into the transition center. Okay, but if they've taken the NCDAP and they have to take DMAs, then we're advising them to take as many DMAs as they can. That would set them up for the best success in spring 19. Okay, with DREs, the same thing. If they need DRE 096 or 97, go ahead and enroll them in those courses for fall. And again, if they only need DRE 098, that's something that they can complete easily in the fall. For folks between 2.2 and 2.799, again, if they have a smaller number of DMAs to complete in the fall, we want to go ahead and enroll them. So obviously, if they can complete whatever DMAs they need to get them in a math without a co-rec before spring, we want to go ahead and enroll them in those DMAs. Okay, and stop me if I'm not making sense. We can always come back to this. If it's more than 5 DMAs, again, we want to think about, and as we review this will become a lot more clear, we want to think about what's going to set the student up for the most success. So if a student can complete, as an example, DMA 10, 20, and 30 in the fall semester, and then place into their math with or without a co-rec, right, then that has prepared them efficiently, and enrolling them in the DMAs makes sense, right? But if they take the NCDAP and they have to take 5 DMAs before they can place into their gateway math, right? Then they might not actually meet that threshold of math, right? They actually might not be able to complete all those DMAs and get out of DMA 50 or DMA 80, whatever DMAs they need to take prior to spring 19, okay? So we want to consider that. Okay, with DREs, I'm sorry, can you go back? Did I hit it?
Yeah.
Does it move anytime you hit it?
Yeah, it's a smart board.
Can you swipe this way? Okay, cool, sorry. I apologize, I'm not done yet. So with DREs, if they need DRE 096 or 97, obviously we want to advise them to take those in the fall. DRE 098 they can take in the fall. And if they complete DRE 096 or 97, they could then place into an English course with a co-rec in spring semester, okay? If they have above a 2.8, right, if they need any developmentals, again, this is going to be an individual conversation with the student, because we know if they have above a 2.8 starting in fall, beginning in spring, they might not have to take any developmentals, okay? So this is going to be an individual conversation, and I think maybe this is becoming more clear that it's going to be completely specific to the student. It's not always going to be cut and dry like, okay, well, the NCDAP says that you need 5 DMAs to complete before you go into your math, but right, we've got a 2.8, so that means spring 19, they could go into an entry level or their gateway math course without having to take any of those, right? So you want to sort of guide that student appropriately. That student might want to go ahead and take some of those developmentals because they want to work on those skills before they get into a math course. And so that's going to be an individual conversation that you have with the student. English, the same way. So if they need developmental English and reading, then we want to enroll them in that fall semester. Otherwise, if they have above a 2.8, they could technically wait. So there's going to be possibly for most scenarios. There's going to be several scenarios that a student can go down.
And you notice I put this little caveat at the bottom here. Note, when advising new students, look at placement scores before deciding the path a student will take when they're in an or statement, because there's going to be some or. So for example here, if the student comes in and has a GPA of 2.2 to 2.799, they're not going to get 5 DMAs done because we only have 4 in a semester. So, but they could, the or says take math 1, all the maths with a co-rec in spring 2019. So they could do that. And but if that student, you do have the knowledge now of the placement score. So let's say that student scored 2s and 3s on all their 10 through 60. You possibly may want to get them in 10, 20, and 30, even though there is an or there, because you do have that information at your disposal now. So there are some ors. So, like he said, this is going to be each student. And if you have questions, guess what? My phone number is on there. You can call me. And it's a learning process for me too. This is all new for us. Adam and Jamie and I will all probably converse if you call us with the questions. What do you think? What do you think? So we can advise the best we can. So I talked about the transition a little bit. How many were around when Math 60, 70, and 80 were here? Aha, there's a few of us, yes. We're circling back around again, kind of. So in the Transition Center, there's going to be 3 tiers for math. There's going to be Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3. There are 17 total units that's going to be in the Transition Center. So Tier 1 basically is DMA 10 through 30. So you heard him speak about the cutoffs. So we want each student to try to get through 30, 50, or 80, because those are going to be the cutoffs to either take with a co-rec or not. So there's going to be 1 through 8 is kind of equivalent to Math 60. That's Tier 1. 1 through 12 is Tier 2. It's equivalent to Math 070. And Tier 1 through 17 is Tier 3, which will get you into Math 080 for those taking Math 171. For DREs, there's only 2 tiers. You got 1 through 6 for Dre 97 and 1 through 10 for Dre 98. Okay, so in the Transition Center, this is basically what they will be going through. Okay. And on this part of your guide, right here in the middle, this is what this shows. And this is what the state has said at the moment, and that's what we're conveying. It's what they've said at the moment. We're going to have a P1, a P2, and a P3 grade. So eventually, after the spring semester, you might have to look in there to see. And that's going to tell you that P1, they finished the first tier. P2, they finished the second tier, and P3 is for the third tier. And that basically, I put the same thing that was on that other screen. So then you can look and say, well, if the student finished 10 through 30, they can register with Math 110 without a co-rec. Okay? So if they finish Unit 1 through 12, they can register for Math 143 or 152 without a co-rec. Or they can register for Math 121 and 171 with a co-rec. Okay? So there's 2 options there. And then, again, the last one would be the register for Math 121 or 171 without a co-rec. If they finished all of the Transition Center. And as I said, the Transition Center is going to be a diagnostic test that they take at the beginning, and then they're just going to have to work on the things that they need to work on and progress through. And the same for the English. So if they just do first tier, they can take English 111 with a co-rec or English 111 without a co-rec if they finish the whole grade 98. Any questions with that? It'll make more sense. I think it's, like I said, a lot of this you're not going to need to really know this until spring. And notice I have a spring, rise, and divide, so it's kind of divided. This is the fall, and then it starts down here with the spring. But this, again, the more you hear it, the more I think you'll understand it when it finally gets here. Okay? And the RISE assessment it was funny, us three were at a meeting, so I said, don't call it the placement test. People don't like that word test. And I said, can you call it the assessment? And the decision was made, okay, we'll call it assessment. So that's what it's gonna be. And it's only gonna be administered to students who have been out of high school for more than 10 years and international students. And we may end up having that special credit student depending on what they have when they come in. But a lot of people said, well, can the student at least take this assessment to avoid the transition center? No. Can they take the assessment, let's say they're sitting at a 2.79 to get out of the COREC course? No, they cannot take. So it's not going to be used like the placement test is now. It's going to be very slim people that will actually even take the assessment test. But the reason being is supposedly the state has done statistics to show that the placement test is not a good measure of someone's ability. They feel that the GPA coming out of high school is a better measure of their ability versus a one-time placement. Who wanted to do the parent class? Doesn't matter?
Doesn't matter. So the parent class and the COREC, at least the parent classes aren't changing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the parent class for Math 110 is 110. The COREC will be 110. Okay? So Math 010. But it'll be the MAT subject prefix. Okay? Your next level would be Math 121, even though it requires a higher score. Its COREC will be Math 021. You've got Math 143 with Math 043. You've got Math 152 with 052. You've got Math 171 with 071. And you've got English 111 with English 011. Okay? Your transition English course is English 002, and your math transition course is Math 003. Now, every college is allowed to choose whether they want to do that through Con Ed or curriculum. So if a student comes in with the transitions from Con Ed, we will have to convert it as transfer credit on our curriculum side. Okay? So I want you to look at, I know it's kind of hard to see, but the credit hours, you got it on your thing? So your Math 110 is already 4 contact hours, okay? It's only 3 credit, but it's 4 contact. You're gonna then add your COREC class, that's another 2 contact hours. So now you're looking at 6 hours of math a week, okay? For Math 121, it's 7 hours a week. So this is going to be a huge adjustment to student schedules. And there's, a lot of times it's going to be better not to do both gateway classes in the same semester, because that is all the student would be focusing on, okay? Would be math and English. And then they would want to come shoot you because they really wanted to play with, mechanical drawings.
I think it's going to be more important for us to consider the contact hours than we might have considered previously, simply based off of this new model.
It's going to be really hard for the high-hour CTE programs for those students who come in and are not prepared to go into the gateway classes, to try and keep them interested and keep them here. And so adjusting their schedule. We all know we have students come in the spring when our program starts in the fall. And then it's, what can you do without a prereq, okay? So you want to get these gateway classes over as soon as possible, but you're probably not going to want to do them both in the same semester if the student needs CORECs. The big one on there, your statistics, Math 152, that's 8 contact hours if they need that COREC.
171 is
171 is 9. Okay? I mean, that's 3/4 of a full-time schedule. Okay, so when you're thinking about contact hours, you also need to remember credit hours, because right now these CORECs, I've heard a little whisper that they might not be counted as developmental for financial aid. They might be counted as supplemental, but right now, in our world, it's cut and dried, it's still developmental. That has not been passed through yet. Remember, students are only allowed 30 hours of developmental through financial aid. So that's gonna end up something else to take into consideration, especially if they have to go to the transitions course.
30 credit hours or 30 contact hours?
Credit. So it could be worse. It could be worse. Okay, does anybody have questions on this one? Look at your transition courses, 6 contact hours a week. Okay? So if they had to go into both transition classes, that's all they're doing. Yeah.
Will
Amanda?
the transition courses be taught on the Lee campus?
Yes.
Yes, there will be no online
For the
for the,
spring.
for the spring.
And they'll be day and night.
But I was just wondering, they're not gonna be going to a different site. I know,
We're gonna have them, at the moment, we're gonna have them in the days at Harnett and Pittsboro and day and night here. Until we we really don't have any data at the moment to see how many we're looking at, so as soon as, but we will have them.
I was just thinking about them, if it was on a different site, they have to travel between.
No.
And they're all seated classes?
Yes.
For the spring.
For the spring.
And so is the co-recs.
Yeah,
So is the
and so are the co-recs. There are no online co-recs in the spring.
So just to kind of give you, this is coming in the fall, but if they register for Math 171 LO1, they're gonna have to register for Math 071 LO1. So they're not gonna be able to pick, oh, let me pick this co-rec class. They have to match. The sections numbers will have to match when we get to that part. So. But we are encouraging, like your associates in science group to sign up for their math first, because instead of taking English first, I would take my math because they have more math to take, and vice versa, arts, you might want to sign them up for English first. So it just depends on what their major is.
Okay. Back to placement guide. Okay. So what's really different, not just the scores on your high school GPA, we've seen this, but now you've got that either or ACT. So it's not a cut and dried GPA. It's not a cut and dried ACT score. And then, what's this surge stuff? What's that CCRG stuff? Well, is it 2020?
What I heard.
By 2020, in the high schools, if students are not successful in their math and English courses, they're going to have to take a surge course that community college folks are going to help develop. And then they're going to get a grade from that surge class while they're in high school that could help determine their placement when they get here. That's about the easiest way I can explain that. Okay.
And we're not doing, our high schools aren't doing it at the moment, so we won't have to worry about that at the moment.
If their GED score is over 170, they can go straight into their gateway. Well, guess what, folks? Right now, I got no place to put a GED score anywhere in the system, okay? So, this new screen is gonna be wonderful. It's gonna have all of this. And then your transition completion. Also, on that surge grade, look at the difference between the A and the B. Okay? A B grade, do you want to explain that?
If you make a B in that transition or the surge course at the high school, you will still be required to take a co-rec when you come to college.
But if you get an A in the surge class, then you get out of it.
So that's for the English. And here is for the math.
This gets a lot easier when you start applying it.
Right.
Okay? It gets a whole lot easier when you start applying it to specific students. So, we've got, if the student is below the 2.2, so 2.199 or less, they have to go to the transition center. Okay? Now, the only way that could be trumped is if all their ACT scores are sufficient. Or their CCRG, their surge score is sufficient. Or they took the SAT. I know it just keeps going on, right? And then your transition math completion, where it says Unit 8, Unit 12, and Unit 17, what you will actually see in the system would be P1, P2, and P3, which is a little bit easier, I think, for you to help remember. First level, second level, third level. And again, for the English, it will be a P1 and a P2. If this magic screen doesn't work, we're going to drop back and punt and do, you know how we've got the high school GPA under other tests? Well, we'll do something like that. And I guess I'll know in October if we have to do something like that, just before pre-reg opens.
So one of the things to know, this is helpful, right? Because we are not simply basing it off of GPA. We're going with whatever is going to place them highest. So if their SAT is higher, then we're using that instead of the high school GPA in place. Or surge grade is higher, or whatever the other piece is. Or if they have
Right.
DMAs, or DREs, or transfer credit, or
earned credit for math 080, you know? So Lisa and I were discussing this morning, and this hasn't been addressed, and we haven't gotten clarity, but just like the high school GPA is gonna go back 10 years, we feel like those ACT, SAT scores will. No one has specifically told us that yet. Lisa sent an email to get clarification. But we pretty much feel like whatever can get the student at the highest level, that's what we're going to end up doing. Okay? So and right now it's 5 years, okay? But this would mean 10 years. Okay?
And we're gonna have more training on this in the fall, but we just kind of, as far as placing, but we're just gonna.
Lisa, you got a question over here?
Yes. The SAT and ACT, because I know not all students complete those, and then also they cost money to get. Are those required then for them to be able?
Only if they want to use it.
Okay.
However, every North Carolina
Yeah.
junior is taking the ACT. It's paid for by the state.
So we'll use that score then.
If we got it and it gets them where they need to be, we'll use it.
if we receive the score. Yeah,
That's-
if we receive the scores.
If they don't get it right then though, it'll cost them money down the road.
Well, that is true.
Yep.
There was some talk about trying to get those from the high schools, but I don't know if that's a FERPA law or.
No, it's a money law.
It's a
money. Years ago, they used to go on the high school transcript and we could use that, and the College Board got upset and said, no, you can't use it off the high school transcript. We still do for CCP students, but once they graduate, the high school will not include those scores, so we can't use it from the high school transcript. It has to be sent to us.
So that might be something as far as our coaches at our high schools that we might need to get them, you know, if you're thinking about, and I think with the Promise K, the new,
K-14.
K-14 Promise, I think we'll have more coming this way, you know, because now they can come for free for 2 years, you know, if they have that certain thing for CCP.
Oh,
This is the magic screen that they say is going to appear.
So you will notice this is a markup. Somebody took a screen and just started adding fields and kind of did this like in Paint or something like that. We currently have this XMMS screen, but it doesn't look anything like this. And it'll work and break and work and break, and then it'll put 15 pages of non-course credit on the student's transcript. So we haven't been using it. We're going to populate this screen with the high school GPA so that when this one comes in, that GPA will automatically show if the student has a high school transcript on the screen. You can tell it's a customized screen because it starts with X. Okay, so that means we did it here in North Carolina. It did not come delivered from Colleague, which means there are always hiccups. Okay, so you'll notice here it gives you the last time it was calculated. That is because currently, with multiple measures, we can take a student's GPA after their first semester of their senior year. okay? And we would put the initial high school GPA here, and we could say, yeah, they've got credit based on their GPA, it's a 2.95, they've got all their DMAs and all their DREs, okay? Even if they drop below, we're not supposed to take it away, okay? Because they just goofed off their final semester. Now, with RISE, we can go back to the end of their sophomore year. What? Yeah, I heard you say that, yeah. Yes, okay? We can go back to the end of their sophomore, and it has to be finalized. It can't be mid-sophomore year. But by the time they come in as CCP students, we should have that finalized GPA from their sophomore year, because they can only come in CCP for most of our programs other than early college as a junior, and we should have that grade to see whether or not they can place out of those. Now, once we get the official high school transcript that shows they've graduated, then we would enter final high school GPA, okay? And hopefully that won't populate again on the stack screen. Probably will, who knows, okay? But this magic screen tells you is the high school graduation date. More than 10 years, okay? You don't have to calculate. I think you all can, but you don't have to. See, it's going to give you the grad date, and it's going to say this is 1998, so that's more than 10 years. It's going to give me a place to put their GED score, okay? There is no expiration date on that GED score. What I was just told. What, last week? Was that last Friday?
Yeah.
Their CCRG scores are on here. ACT is on here. SAT is on here, okay? And if they have transfer credit from another institution, it'll show up on here for their Gateway English or Math. And we heard, what if the screen isn't ready? And the folks developing this said, this is already Plan B. It has to be ready. So that's what they're saying, okay?
But it'll be so easy because look, it
It
says,
says English 111 without a correct,
so you can kind of,
okay?
figure it out.
Math 110 must complete a transition math course test. Okay, so that means they've got to go into transition. Okay?
We got to go on because we got lots of scenarios, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
This is where you like the thing.
So we're going to test your knowledge, and you're not doing this by yourself, so don't feel like you're going to be in the dark. You're working with the people at your table. There's some paper there.
At that table.
Yeah, Dad, you're with them. There's some paper on your table, so if you're going to let one person to write, all right? We're going to go through some scenarios, and I want you to write down how you would or your group, how would you advise this student, okay? So, and in Pittsburgh, if you guys could work as a team there. So Tom is registered, listen up, Tom's registered to take DMA 10, 20, 40, and 50 this fall, okay? The only one he needs based on, these are the only ones he needs based off of the placement test, because he wants to take Math 152, or he has to take that. He fails DMA 20, and he needs to retake it. How do you advise this student? This is fall.
Why don't we go through one with them first?
Sure.
And then we'll, that way you kind of get your mind thinking.
Take them out of the DMAs and the rationale for that would be because if he has to retake 20, that's not going to give him enough time to complete the other DMAs before the end of the fall semester.
You can register around once and
All right, let's see what we think. And like I say,
Y'all would think the same thing.
I don't know.
all right.
So our thought is he needs to retake the 20 because he's already got credit for 30, and that would get him to the first tier mark,
That's right.
okay?
So then he can take Math 152 with
With a co
With a correct. Okay?
Okay? So if he completes DMA 20, since he has placed out of 30, he can take it with that co-rec. So, and again, these are all scenarios. Go ahead, Brandon, what do you think?
So, okay, so that would be your suggestion for what to do. Okay, what if he says, nah, I want to retake
Well, then
it?
he's
What
going
would
to
be-
end up in the transition center.
Okay, that's what I want.
Yes.
Okay.
So
because-
this would set him up to be at the highest level,
Highest
right?
level,
So if he
yes.
retook the 20, he's already got 30.
Yeah.
So if he took 10, he retook 20, then he'd be in math 152 with the co-requisite instead of transitions.
But if he failed 20, again.
He's still got place for one more time.
Yeah,
He's still got place for one more time.
Okay, so that puts US half, you know,
10
take that
and
30 as many times as
You
possible.
can take math 110 without the pass.
Versus going to transition.
Yeah, because he plays out of a tier, right? So he'd place out of 30. So that means he'd be in 152 at least, but he'd have to
Well,
cover
we know
it.
how they get discouraged after they kind of not pass it for the second time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
second or third. So you kind of got to really think about your tiers. There's only 3 outs. You know, the system office had lots of talk about, you know, what if they finish 10 and 20, but not 30 again. They finally just said, we're gonna have 3 cutoffs. So you wanna try to get them to 30, 50, or 80.
I know.
Those are the 3
That's why
tiers
it's placed
that
between
will help
here.
him progress forward.
Past 10, then past 20, or even if you didn't have 25.
They're working the problem out.
Uh-huh. So what did y'all get in Pittsburgh?
What do you guys think, Rhonda? Right.
Yeah, I came up with the pretty much similar conclusion for the first one.
Same conclusion.
Because it puts them between, it puts them in Pier 1, right?
Yes.
P1? Yeah.
Next scenario.
Wait, I have a question. Yes.
So if they don't get to 30, then he's gonna have to go back to transition center.
Right.
In other words, he's got to get up to 30, they got to get up to 50, or got to get up to 80. Those
Yep.
3 tiers.
All
And
right.
there could be a possibility when he went to the transition center, he could take that diagnostic test and be right back where he is, or, you know, further up, because I haven't seen that test.
But he'd still have to be enrolled in the transition center.
Which means you're putting a semester off, or at least a session, like an 8-week session off before you can get him into.
No, the transitions are 16 weeks.
Okay, so you're putting a whole semester later.
Thought that he
You got a
couldn't
question
take
in
the
Pittsburgh for
diagnosis.
Rhonda.
What's your question, Rhonda?
I'm unclear on how they're placed into the transition center. Is that based on GPA or is that based on how many maps they completed?
Both. So if they make a below a 2.199, right, they automatically go into the transition center beginning spring 19. But then if they don't test out of a tier, right, through 30, through 50, through 80, then they also go to the transition center. So
Could.
yes. So
Definitely if they don't place out of 30.
that's right. So at the first tier level, right, if they don't place out of that at least, they're definitely going to the transition center.
So we need to get them all through at least 30. I mean, that's
Yeah.
the minimum.
So for that first scenario, they would do the grade P1 plus the transition for math?
They would need to get at least a P1, that would equate to DMA 30.
That's right. Yep. That would then make them eligible to go to 152 with a co-requisite.
If they got to P2, they could take it without a
Right,
co-requisite.
and this second little section here sort of is a good guide for that. Okay?
So I thought that they couldn't retest. If they went back to the transition center, that they couldn't go in there and test and try to test out.
Well, they don't, they have to actually go through the modules and then take the test.
Yes.
Do the NR, what do you call NROC, what is it called?
NROC.
NROC.
Yep, so keep in mind, it's the same software in the transition center as that assessment that we were talking about. They will not take that assessment. They'll go in the transition center and take that, they'll use that software
Yeah.
in order to sort of self-pace them out of the course.
Oh, okay.
That's for 16 weeks.
Yep.
16
English
weeks.
and math.
Yep.
And they can, once they finish, they can leave. You know, so they don't have to stay for the whole 16 weeks. So let's say they only have, 4 modules to do. They can get through their 4 modules and be done.
So you said it's self-paced, so
It
it's
is
not
gonna be
like,
self-paced.
And at that point, do they take their math and co-rec? Or do they just take?
Well, I doubt the math will be offered. I mean, we can't offer them, math 110 or 152 all throughout the semester.
They'd most likely be looking at the next semester.
They'd be looking at the
But
next.
they can go out and take it, they can take it when it's off.
Yes.
Yep. So let's do the next scenario in your groups and see what you come up with, okay? So Michelle, she's a paralegal student. She has a high school GPA of 2.2, and based off of the placement test score, she needs to take DREO 98. How do you advise this student for fall 18?
Okay, as a GPA,
What, do you need the GPA?
Well, we just put them up there to kind of help you start thinking about it.
And to recognize that you don't have both. For lots of students, and it's about whatever gets them to the highest school.
Okay, so it's either or, it's not both.
Correct.
It would be P2.
they need to take DRE 98 only in the spring. The correct.
According to this.
Right.
Okay, so let's visit this back table here first. What did you guys say about Michelle?
We said that we would put her in DRE 98, go ahead and just have her take it, so then she could start her English in the spring. Or if she wanted to wait, she could take English with the co-reg, but we prefer to go ahead and get the development out of the way.
Okay, excellent. Any, how about this side right here, the middle
Is that
table?
the
What do you guys
consensus?
say? Same thing? Rhonda, what did you guys say in Pittsburgh?
Same thing.
Cool, all right. Yep.
Yep.
So, same scenario. All right, so scenario 3, good job.
Okay.
All right, so Larry is an Associate of Science student, and he has a 2.3 GPA. He's passed DMA 10 through 50 on the placement test.